Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Ravinder Dundra. Today we will discuss about this class 10th CBSE history first chapter, that is the rise of nationalism in Europe. In that we will talk about this third topic, that is the age of revolutions. Often European historians they used to consider this particular time period, that is from 1830 to 1848, they used to consider it as the age of revolutions. Let us see why this particular time period is considered as this age of revolutions. First, we will see one of the very important revolution which occurred in the month of July in the year 1830. That is, we also call it as this July Revolution. When this July Revolution occurred, where it occurred is that it occurred in the year 1830 and it occurred in a country known as this France. So this July Revolution, why it occurred is that mainly, as I told, during this 1815, after Treaty of Vienna, Bourbon kings were restored to power. That time the king was Louis XVIII. The king was Louis XVIII, but after his death in the year 1824, the power was in the hands of a person known as Charles X. So this Charles X started ruling this France from 1824 to 1830. Then in that time period, what happened is that this Charles X policies were not liked by the people. Because of that, they did a revolution which in the month of July. After that, what changes occurred is that the first one is that Bourbon dynasty was overthrown by these liberal revolutions. The main cause, the main reason who did this revolution were, the main people who did this revolution were these liberals, about whom we talked in the previous lecture. So these liberals, what they have done is that now they have overthrown this Bourbon dynasty. That means they removed this Bourbon dynasty. Next, what happened is that they have installed something known as constitutional monarchy, which means there will be a constitution, then at the same time there will be a king. So who kept their head of king as this Louis Philippe? They kept their king is that they kept their king as this Louis Philippe with constitutional monarchy. So by seeing all these incidents, one of the famous person, Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich, what he told is that when France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold. This is very, very important. This can be given for your one mark question. Sometimes they will ask the question like, who said this? When France sneezes, rest of Europe catches cold. So the answer is this, Duke Metternich. What does this lines mean? When France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold, which means whatever the small thing happens in France, for example, it can be a revolution, it can be any other thing, whatever the small thing happens in France, this used to be spreading like a virus very easily into other parts of this Europe. So if suppose there was a revolution, it is easily spreading to other parts. If there is something else, war, it is spreading to other parts of this Europe. So like this, whenever any small kind of thing happens, that is easily being spread into other parts of this Europe. That is the reason why this Duke Metternich mentioned that when France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold. Next, as he told, the same thing happened by seeing this July Revolution. What happened is that in Brussels there was a revolution against this. What is that? There was a revolution against the Kingdom of Netherlands. This Kingdom of Netherlands. This Brussels was the capital city of this Belgium. So after this Treaty of Vienna, what happened is that this Belgium has become part of this Kingdom of Netherlands. But after seeing this July Revolution, there was also a revolution in Brussels. After this revolution, Belgium, it got separated from this Kingdom of Netherlands. So this is one of the very important revolution which occurred in the year 1830. Next, before this revolution itself, there is one more revolution which occurred in a country known as Greece. This Greece, it was part of Ottoman Empire since 15th century. That means Ottoman Empire is one of the largest empire in the Europe, and this kingdom was ruled by these Muslim rulers. So this kingdom, from when onwards it is there, is from almost 14th to 20th century onwards. This kingdom was there. Then what happened is that by seeing all other countries, this Greece also decided that we also want to become an independent country. Because of that, they started struggling for their independence in the year 1821. Then who gave support to this Greece people, or who were the people who supported to Greek War of Independence? These people, they got support from Greeks living in exile and West Europeans. Exile means, suppose if a person is forcefully sent away from a country, we call it as exile. So these Greek people who were sent forcefully away from their country, they gave support to this Greek. Then West Europeans, that means the western part of this Europe, those people who are living, they also gave support to this Greece. At the same time, poets and artists lauded Greece as the cradle of European civilization, which means, cradle means the place where something begins. That means, according to the view of poets and artists, what they used to believe is that the Greece is the main place where the entire European civilization actually started, actually began. So that is what these poets and artists were saying. Then one more thing, one of the important poet who gave support is this English poet Lord Byron. What he has done is that he started collecting money, or he started collecting funds to fight against this Ottoman Empire and to support this Greece. But unfortunately, in the middle, in the year 1824 itself, this, who is that? Lord Byron was died because of this fever. And finally, when Greece got independence, they have got independence in the year 1832 at a place known as Treaty of Constantinople. Treaty of Constantinople. Treaty means, I already told in my previous lectures, a formal agreement between two people, we call it as treaty. So at a place known as Constantinople in the year 1832, finally Greece has recognized as an independent nation. That means they started struggle in the year 1821. Then this struggle, it started continuing up to 1832. So this is how the Greece got their independence. We will talk about the romantic imagination and national feeling. What is this romantic imagination and what is the connection with this national feeling? Is there any connection? First, let us discuss about this romanticism. Romanticism means what? Is that romanticism means a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalist sentiment. That means till this time, that means almost till the middle of this 18th century, if any person wants to create the sense of nationalist feeling, they used to get through this, through wars, or sometimes through expansion of other kingdoms. But now what people have started focusing is that now they started focusing on something known as this romanticism. That means instead of expanding their territories, instead of going for this war, what people have now done is that they started focusing on this something known as culture, or you can say they started criticizing this glorification of reason and science. That means they stopped believing in reason, logical reason. Then they also stopped believing in this science. Instead, what they have done is that they focused on this culture, and this culture, it has played a very important role in creating the feeling of nationalism in Europeans. How it created is that through what measures, what are the ways how it created is that it created through art and poetry, it created through stories as well as music. That means by using art, by using poems, by using stories and by using music, people they started spreading their feeling of nationalism through these things, through culture, that is by using art, poetry, stories as well as music. Then one of the very important philosopher, or we also call the romanticist, who belongs to this German, he is Johann Gottfried Herder. What he focused is that the true spirit of culture, German culture, can be discovered in this something known as Das Folk, or it is a German word which means folk or folk tradition. In that, he mainly focused on folk songs, folk poetry as well as folk dance. Why he focused on these things is that the true spirit, the true culture of Germany can be discovered only through this folk culture. So he told that by using this folk culture, we can actually generate the feeling of nationalism among these people. Like this, not only culture, this vernacular language also played a very important role in this creating the feeling of nationalism. Why it played, how it played is that vernacular language actually why people use this because of two reasons. One is to recover ancient national spirit. That means the ancient culture is mainly created through these vernacular languages. Again, if you revive that, if you reuse this vernacular language again, you can actually recover this ancient national spirit, or ancient, that means olden days culture. Then second thing is that to carry the message to illiterates. That means most of the people, what happens is that they are not well educated, or you can say they are uneducated. In that situation, what we have to do is that if you want to spread any message very easily to these people, means you have to use this vernacular language, or you can simply say the local language of this people. So that is why even romanticists they focused on this vernacular language, where mainly they focused. One of the best example where people have used this vernacular language is that they have started using this in Poland. Then in the same country, one of the romanticists, his name is Karol Karpunski. What he has done is that he celebrated nationalist struggle through operas and music. That means he also started spreading the feeling of nationalism through two things. One is operas, second one is music. Operas means, for example, if you are telling any story in the form of song or in the form of music, we call it as operas. So by using this operas, by using this music, this Karol Karpunski, he started creating this feeling of nationalism. And the same person, what he has done is that he turned folk dances like Polonized and Mazurka into a nationalist symbols. That means the folk dances which are Polonized and Mazurka, he turned into a nationalist symbols. That means he started using these folk dances as a symbol of their nation. Why? Because this can be easily carried into this common person, or you can say common people. So the main intention of this entire romanticism or romantic imagination is only one thing: to use culture, to use art, to use poetry, to use folk dance, everything to create the feeling of nationalism instead of going for wars, or instead of going for this territorial expansion. In the same process, even the language also played a very important role in this. What is that? In creating the feeling of nationalism. How this language played is that, for example, again if you take this Poland, what happened is that this Poland, it was occupied by this one of the biggest country, that is Russia. But as soon as occupying this Poland, what Russia has done is that Russia removed Polish language, and what they have imposed is that they have imposed this Russian language. That means from now onwards, no person in this country should use Polish language, the language of Poland people. What they are supposed to do is that they are only supposed to use this Russian language. But the people of Poland, they refused, they rejected to use this Polish language, to use this Russian language. Then what these people have done is that in the year 1831, these Polish people, what they have done is that they did a revolution against this Russia. But they were not successful in fighting against this Russia. Even after that also, people of Poland, they started using this Polish language as a weapon of resistance. That means to fight against this Russian dominance, the only weapon which they have mainly used is this Polish language. And sometimes some of the people like church priests, clergies, or whenever if they gather in a public place, people started using this Polish language instead of this Russian language. And even the Russian people, what they have done is that they have even started forcefully keeping this Russian language in the schools. So because of this, what happened is that these Polish people, they started seeing this language as their weapon of resistance. And finally, if those people who are using this Polish language, they were even arrested and kept in the jail. But people did not stop using this Polish language. So finally what we can conclude is that even after arresting the people and even after keeping them in the jail, this Polish language seen as the weapon of national resistance for Polish people. In the next class, we will talk about this hunger, hardship and popular revolt. Thank you.